This is the Solid Signal podcast for the week of December 14th, 2020. And there's really only one topic to talk about this week, and it's antennas. You know, 2020 may have been kind of a challenging year for all of us, but there's one thing that we really didn't worry about too much, and that was channel blackouts. In past years, we've seen a lot of cases where content providers were forcing DirecTV or Dish to black out particular channels because they weren't able to come to an agreement on the kind of contract that they were going to execute for the next 2 to 3 years. Oftentimes, these content providers, who can be local channels or national channels, will want a 200 to 300% increase in the fees that they get paid for carriage. And this is purely posturing, because then DirecTV or Dish will come back with a much smaller offer and they fight, and eventually, usually about a day before the contract is up, they come to some sort of agreement. It's a predictable game and something that happens every year. And it happens thousands of times because you have all of these different channels, all these different locals, and all of these different nationals that are really trying to do the same thing, which is get paid more. Unfortunately, 2020's relatively clean record of having very few channel blackouts was shattered this past week when both DirecTV and Dish were forced to black out a bunch of channels. Dish's blackout of Nexstar-owned stations is actually the largest one in history, because Nexstar had been allowed to purchase Tribune television stations, meaning that they had something like 100 and something or other channels across some of the largest cities in the country. The numbers aren't super important, except to know that a lot of people are affected by this thing, and not only regular folks who are affected by the one satellite blackout, but also, like, if you have DirecTV and you happen to have a Nexstar-owned station, you're going to hear all of the commercials call and complain about the fact that there's a blackout on Dish. So it's affecting a lot of people. Well, there's one way that you can stop this madness, and that's by taking control of things yourself. I've said it for a number of years. The real answer to this sort of thing is to get your own TV antenna. You can use a service like Locast, which in many cases, I think there are about 30 markets, will give you local channels that you can stream. But no matter where you are, about 98% of people are within reach of local television channels just by putting up an antenna. Some can do it inside, some can do it outside. But the most important thing to realize is that you have a right to your local TV. You do not have to pay for it. You can put up an antenna and you will get all the free local TV that you need, all that you want, all the information that is out there. And why wouldn't you do this? I understand that it's convenient to have it as part of your TV guide, and if it comes over satellite, that you can incorporate it in the guide and record it. Dish users can actually incorporate antenna television in some receivers. DirecTV folks, not so much, unless you can find one of the old AM21 units on eBay. Truth is, though, that yes, you do have those capabilities with satellite, but with an antenna, you get better picture quality, you get 100% live television, and nobody can take that away. Not only that, but antennas are often relatively immune to weather incidents, where, for example, severe weather might cause you to have some problems receiving signals on satellite. On the other hand, you very rarely see that with antennas, as long as they're able to be relatively free of snow, relatively free of ice, are going to pull in all the stations that you need 24/7, 365. And did I mention, yes, I know I did, there's nothing more to pay for once you hook up that antenna. The antenna you buy today is going to work regardless of whether or not the federal government does get their act in gear and manages to find a way to move us to the next generation television standard. Whether they do or not, that antenna that you've got is still going to work, and it's going to be a benefit to you for years to come. So why not get an antenna from solidsignal.com? I think it's really a very smart idea, and it's something that you're going to be very glad that you have. If you're relatively close to a major city, then you're going to find you can get an indoor antenna, and it's going to pick up your major channels pretty easily. Yeah, a little further out, 45 miles out or so, you're going to want an outdoor antenna, but even that's a great thing to have. Installation is often very easy. You can mount up on an eave. You don't always have to go up on the roof. If you've got a chimney, you can strap to that if you need to do it and you don't want to drill holes. There's all sorts of options, and there's only one real solution. That's solidsignal.com. Go to solidsignal.com for the antenna of your dreams and live your best digital life. If you don't know which one you need, there's a forum there where you can get more help, where a real technician will help you get the antenna that you have been looking for, the one that you're really going to need. It's worth it, folks. I know this sounds like a little bit of a shill. This sounds like a 5-minute advertisement, and I apologize. But the truth of the matter is that I really believe in the idea of having TV antennas. I've had a TV antenna up on my roof for over 20 years, and I've used it numerous times during channel blackouts and just to get content that my local cable and satellite providers don't give, because that's another piece of it as well, and I'll mention that too, that there are dozens of channels that you can get over antenna that aren't featured on cable and satellite. So there's even more reason to get one. That's it for the Solid Signal podcast for this week. Go ahead and like and subscribe. If you have an idea for another podcast, leave a comment anywhere that you watch or listen to these podcasts, and I will find it. I thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you again next week.